Hi guys, welcome back to my channel after years of not being around. But anyway, I'm back now, so I'm gonna try and be more consistent. I know I've made this promise before, Aki guys. I've just realized I've made this promise so many times before. But this time I'm actually planning to be more serious about this, so stick around, stick around. Anyway, today, as the title suggests, I wanna talk about, people who have experienced being too self-aware for therapy, because right now I work as like a full-time therapist, and I've also seen a lot of dialogue online about I'm too self-aware for therapy doesn't work for me. And maybe let's talk about it a bit, because self-awareness isn't a bad thing. I've seen a lot of stories about many people who go to see therapists, and they say, or they express in a couple of ways, that they're very self-aware, they understand themselves, they understand their motivations, their intentions, their behavior, and lots of other things. And it seems like the therapist kind of says, okay, you're good enough to deal with it on your own. But then these people still go back home, still go back to their lives, and they genuinely feel that they need therapy, or like a good, like therapeutic service, if I could call it that. So, like I said, self-awareness isn't a bad thing. But there may be some places where your self-awareness doesn't take you, or maybe just the way that you're looking at it is kind of hindering the next steps that you want to take. And in that case, I have a couple of questions that you could ask yourself, or you can explore with your therapist if you're already in therapy, about whether your self-awareness is working for you and what are further steps that you could take so that now your self-awareness can work for you and you can stop feeling like it's really working against you, or it's becoming such a huge hindrance to your growth. So even from my own experience, one of the first things that I've seen a lot of people who are self-aware do, people who have like a very high level of self-awareness, is that they may sometimes cross the line over into intellectualization, and sometimes over intellectualizing their experience as a human being, their emotions, their thoughts, their behaviors. And sometimes this happens because, self-awareness is really something that has to do with the mind and your understanding. It has a lot to do with cognition, seeing things on the outside in your external world, as well as noticing things on the inside. And it can be a very logical experience, but sometimes that can lead to like sort of an over-reliance on your logical abilities, and you are not purely a logical being. Like, that's just the fact. There are parts of you that require less of like a cognitive ability to understand things and experience life. There's some parts that involve now you accessing your heart, accessing your soul, sometimes even going into the spiritual realm, like of experiencing life. So maybe that's something you could explore. Is that has your self-awareness now crossed over into intellectualization, where you're dealing with things a lot in your head and not really experiencing them from a heart perspective, or just from a different perspective than intellectualization. So another thing that can sometimes happen is that self-awareness has lots of layers. As you go through life, as you kind of explore who you are, as you kind of get to know who you are on different levels, from the shallow, more accessible ones to the deeper, kind of hidden ones. Sometimes it can be possible that you're moving through them kind of in like a systematic way, in a way that makes sense, but then you find yourself stuck on a certain level. And that can get frustrating because, you really want to know more, but you find yourself stuck. And actually, a couple of the things that I'll be talking about even after this will be, you can use them as kind of indicators to see if you're stuck at a level of self-awareness, but sometimes that can be a thing. So, if you do feel like it's a matter of just being stuck at a certain level for whatever reason, this is, again, something you can explore with your therapist, or if you're not in therapy, you can do your own journaling or your own, like just self-examination. But a lot of times you will need the help of a therapist, especially an equipped therapist, one who has the tools to actually help you. But sometimes you just get stuck on a level of awareness. Another thing that I see a lot of like really self-aware people struggle with is that self-awareness, just like the intellectualization, they get stuck in the mind. Really, I think that's what a lot happens to a lot of people, is that you get stuck in the mind, in analysis. And it's like almost you enter some sort of analysis, like a version of analysis paralysis, where you're stuck in the analysis, but it's difficult for you to make the connection between analysis and action. And that can get frustrating because I think at the end of the day, maybe there's some sort of expectation that I should be able to understand myself cognitively and on the inside and then be able to act it out. But what happens when you don't have that? So maybe that's also, again, something you could explore. Are you stuck in the analysis part and you're struggling to now, like from the findings that you've had from your analysis of yourself and your life and your actions and the things that you want to do, are you now finding it difficult to reach a point where you put them into action. And that leads into my second point. And the second, like third, is it third or fourth? I don't know, I lost count. But that leads me to my next one, that maybe sometimes also you could be, possibility, I may be wrong, but it also could be sometimes that you use self-awareness as kind of like a shield, a barrier, if I could call it a crutch, so as not to deal with specific parts of you. This is another thing I see a lot with a lot of people who are very, should I say, intellectual, logical, or who classify themselves as logical people. You analyze yourself and you're so self-aware about everything about you, but sometimes you're using that as an escape from the other more difficult parts of you. A lot of times people are trying to escape their emotions and the difficulty of their emotions by becoming like self-aware, or like kind of engaging that self-awareness. Yet self-awareness also includes the more difficult parts of you. That's where things like shadow work come in, things like, like taking care of your inner child, like going deeper into the more intense, more difficult emotions. And sometimes that's actually where you need to go. Going back to the point of being stuck, maybe now the next step for you is to go deeper into your emotions, deeper into like why you feel things the way you do. Sometimes it's about your sensitivity. So if you find yourself stuck in that place, this is something that you can explore with your therapist. It's not the end. And you may have to really gather some courage or get the necessary tools to be able to deal with those intense emotions, because sometimes just because of how intense they are, we tend to avoid them and then start feeling stuck, in our self-awareness of other things. So these are things that you can explore with a therapist if you are already in therapy, or if you're looking for a therapist. Just be honest, like this is where you're at. And it's not that you're too far gone in self-awareness for you to be helped. Remember, self-awareness is actually a journey. It's a journey of discovery. Yes, you are you. Yes, you are the expert on you. Yes, you understand a lot of things and you're aware of a lot of things that are about you and how you operate in the world. But then again, at the end of the day, remember, the complexity that you see in other people that you would never get to know the full extent of who they are is the same complexity that you have within yourself. Even as you discover yourself, as you go deeper, there's so much more beneath the surface. There's so much more beneath the current level of self-awareness you've gotten to. So remember, it's a journey. Cut yourself some slack. Like for real, just cut yourself some slack if you find that you're getting stuck at a certain level. It's a journey. In journeys, there'll always be that bump in the road that is so difficult to get over, but you still find a way to get over it. And remember also now, with knowledge and support from your therapist, from the people around you, from any other source of support, and with the right tools, your self-awareness journey can become so much easier. And even when it's not easy, it's doable. Also, remember to take breaks from the self-awareness journey. You can observe yourself, but you also don't have to be in this constant state of like, I need to know, like, I did this and it's connected to this and this is what it means. You also don't need to be in that state as well. There is a time for self-analysis. There's a time for self-awareness. Let me say self-analysis, not self-awareness, because self-awareness is something that kind of sometimes exists without us realizing. There's a time for that, and there's also a time for you to just live, That's the point of moving from analysis to action. Sometimes you can observe that, yes, this is what I'm like in public, this is what I'm like with people, but are you really being present? But anyway, that's a topic for another day. So if you find that you're too self-aware for therapy, I hope that this helps give you a bit of insight into some of the things that you could explore to like dig deeper in that self-awareness, as well as areas maybe you haven't looked at. So I hope that you all enjoyed that. I know it's been a long while since I was on here, but as I said, I'm trying to be more consistent. And I guess if you have any questions about this, if you relate to this experience, you can just comment down below and tell me what's it like for you. Or if you've found yourself in a place where you felt that you were too self-aware for therapy, how did you move past that with the help of a therapist or not? Just let me know. I'd really love to hear your stories about how this is happening, because there are more people coming up now and saying, I feel like I'm too self-aware for therapy. So I'd love to hear your stories. And if you want more videos like this, if you want to keep up with the uploads, you can subscribe. You can subscribe down below, or somewhere my face will appear somewhere at the end of this video. And I am hoping that we can have more discussions on this. I'll definitely talk about being present in relation to self-awareness, or being too self-aware sometime in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.